Hi, everyone. This is the acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and welcome to my first year class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. I'm so glad to welcome you all to this class. I know that many of you have been waiting for a while for the class to get started, and I know that a lot of you have been waiting for an orientation email to be coming out to tell you how to prepare and to tell you what happens and when, and to give you all that good detailed information. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through everything that you need to know to participate in the class every week, to stay in touch with what's going on in the class and to get the most out of the class, and also how to prepare for the class and how and when and where to ask questions if you have them. So first of all, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the Dropbox. Dropbox is a free program that you will have access to throughout the year. There is an option online to sign up for a Dropbox account and pay for it, which you do not have to do, and I don't recommend doing it. It actually makes things more complicated. So you can use Dropbox completely for free. Dropbox is an online folder that will host all of the course content for our year. I will give you a little visual of it in a moment, but inside of the Dropbox will contain every single one of our lesson folders. There are 30 lessons on the year, and in this Dropbox folder, you're going to find all 30 lessons contained inside of folders. Inside of each folder, you will also find the lesson notes or the PowerPoint slides. You'll find the audio video of the particular lesson that we've had a live webinar recording of and put into the Dropbox afterward. You will find a little homework and bonus folder, which contains optional homework, an optional quiz, optional readings, and optional bonus videos and kind of extra content. All of that is optional. It's there for people who need that extra structure or guidance. It is not at all expected that anyone would do all that I provide. I try to provide a range of different options for people so that we're really addressing everyone's needs. But sometimes people get overwhelmed when they see the amount of stuff that's in the homework and Dropbox bonus folder, because they think, oh gosh, I can never do all of this. Well, you're not expected to at all. It's just there for you to browse and feel free to dive in. And as much time as you have, of course, I recommend immersing yourself in the material if you can. But if not, no big deal. The homework is not graded. That's in that folder. The optional bonus material that you could do, the different guided homework assignments and so forth, are not graded or anything like that. They're just there for you. And the quizzes have an answer key that you can check your own work with, which is a great way to memorize and integrate each lesson. So that's what you're going to find inside of each lesson folder within the Dropbox, and they're numbered lesson 1, lesson 2, all the way to 30. Once we get to about 20 lessons, 20 to 30, that range, there's just going to be recordings and no more bonus content or additional homework, because all of that is when we get into practice and live clients. So the good bonus material, homework, all the lecture notes, that comes in the more theoretical portion of the course, which is like the first 20 lectures. Now, also in the Dropbox folder, you are going to find 3 other documents that are really important. You're going to find the class schedule, which is a rolling schedule that's updated as we go throughout the year. I will typically give you several months worth of the schedule in advance. As a rule of thumb, you always want to take off between noon and say 3 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays if you're planning on attending live. If not, no big deal. Many of my students participate remotely from all over the world and will simply catch up when they have time. Try to keep up if you can, week by week, if you are participating remotely, because it does help to stay in your own kind of rhythm. It's easy to get kind of behind, and then you're trying to catch up, and oftentimes in forum discussion on Facebook and things like that, it's harder to keep up if you're getting 5-6 lessons behind, something like that. So try to stay on track if you can, if you're participating remotely. So the schedule will always have 2 to 3 months out of the schedule in advance. Again, as a rule of thumb, just have off on Sundays set aside as a general rule of thumb. So the reason that I can't give the whole schedule for the year is that my travel, lecture, teaching, family things tend to come up, especially on Sundays. And so here or there may be slight changes to the schedule. So I try to give you the firmest look that I have for, say, the next 2 to 3 months at a time. The other thing that you'll notice is that if there's any major schedule changes, I will announce by email in the Facebook group, and you'll see the schedule change noted on the schedule in the Dropbox. So you'll always have multiple avenues of communication letting you know if anything changes. In the Dropbox, you will also find two other documents, the course etiquette document, which gives you all of the important things you need to know about how to participate in class and what the expectations are of students in class, in the Facebook forum, which I'll be talking about in a minute, and stuff like that. Plus, that document will give you the permanent link to Dropbox and the password to Dropbox, which you'll also be getting by email and in the Facebook group. And it also gives you the permanent Zoom link to our webinar each week, which is always exactly the same. You always just use the same link to log in, and then it'll give you the link to our Facebook group. And you have to request to join. Once you click on the link, it'll take you to the page, and you just request to become a member, and we'll approve you. So there's one other folder in the Dropbox folder, which is going to be your guest lectures folder. Any extra additional random bonus content that I come up with, and also our 12 guest speaker audio video recordings will be put into that folder for you. So if you can't attend those live, they'll always be given to you there for free. That's part of our curriculum for the year, those 12 guest teachers, though sometimes they talk about subjects that are not perfectly synced up with what we're learning. Sometimes I have people come in and give talks on, something involving the outer planets or maybe asteroids or something that might be directly related to our course as well, but that varies a little bit more, just so you get a taste for different subjects and the broader field of professional astrology outside of the narrower focus of Hellenistic that we have for this year together. So that's what's happening in the Dropbox. The Dropbox, I'm going to give you just a visual of it right now so that you can see exactly what it looks like. Here we go. Here is the Dropbox. So you can see this right now. I'm just going to open up Nightlight 19, which is one of my most recent groups. You'll see all of the lessons listed here, and then you'll see those documents I was talking about at the bottom. Oh, I chant some invocation mantras at the beginning of every class. I usually put those mantras in there for people who are interested in reading them or chanting along with me as I open class. Here's the guest speakers and extras. And so you'll just see that there's a bunch of stuff in there. Pretty cool. And then, each lesson, if you open up a lesson, you're going to see, here's the lecture notes in a PDF form. You're going to see the lesson 1 audio video, and then you're going to see a homework and bonus material folder. And that inside of it is going to have further cool episodes. Like I've got some cool astrology podcast episodes downloaded and recommended that you read or check out for bonus. I've got a cool article to read. I've got lesson 1 homework here and another article here to read. And the lesson 1 homework, when you open that up, you're going to see that the lesson 1 homework also has supplemental reading assignments, additional source text for further research for people who are really feeling like geeking out on one particular topic that we study, lesson 1 optional exam or quiz, and then a short answer key at the end. So that's generally what the homework looks like. Okay, so that's just a peek at Dropbox. And what's going to happen is when you click on the link to Dropbox, you'll be taken to a Dropbox page in a web browser, whatever your web browser is, and it'll ask for a password. The password is always Nightlight20. The password may change throughout the year. Sometimes that happens, but for now, it's Nightlight20, all lowercase and then 20. And so you want to make sure you keep that link to the Dropbox handy, because that's where everything is in the class that you need. That is the most vital piece of information for you, is the Dropbox link and the password. Keep it in emails, tuck it in a folder somewhere so that you have it available. And please remember that you can ask a classmate, you can go onto the Facebook forum, something like that, if you lose it, because what we're trying to avoid is getting a billion emails every week from people being like, what's the Dropbox link again? We really want people to keep it so that we don't have to just waste a lot of time emailing out, repetitive information. So that's the first little bit here. Like I said, Dropbox is free. I don't recommend buying an account, even though you might be tempted to do so. You don't need it for this class. And sometimes when people buy a Dropbox, then it becomes a little bit more complicated to log in to our folder when you're already a member, because then sometimes space requirements will come into consideration because it'll try to feed the folder back into your account. So the simplest thing to do is to just click on the link. Don't feel like you don't have to sign up. You click on the link, it'll take you into our class folder. You can download anything in that folder. Now, there's one huge thing that everybody needs to know. That is that if you try to watch any of the files directly from the Dropbox, you will only be able to watch an hour-long preview of any of the talks. In order to get the full talk, you have to download the entire file to your device or desktop, which means people who have like tablets with very little memory or a cell phone with little memory, you're downloading a big talk onto the phone or onto the device, which means it's probably going to be ideal for you to have a laptop or a desktop with more memory in order to open up those files and play them, because Dropbox won't allow you to stream the entire file live from Dropbox. You have to download it and then open it. So you will need a little bit of space in that regard. Now, we are in the future, we're working on trying to have a place where we can host all of the files live, but we're not there yet. So the files you have to go into the folder. If you miss the class, you have to download it to a device and then open it on your device, and it'll play, on Windows or Mac, either way. So let's see. You can download and keep all of the content in the course, but you can't redistribute, sell, or publish it anywhere or share it with others. It's the general rule. Everything, again, all announcements about any changes or any kind of, anything that you need to know will be made through the Facebook group and through email and in class typically. So you'll get a lot of notifications. So that's the big thing. That's the Dropbox. In your orientation package that you received, you'll have this information right there for you, the Dropbox. The next thing that you need to know is how to log into class every week. We use Zoom online meetings. It's kind of like a meeting forum webinar version of Skype, if you ever used Skype before. Every week, there is also a login link for class. It is the same login link that you use every single week, and all you have to do is click on the link and launch it from a web browser. If you want to download the Zoom app, it is also free. I recommend doing it because you'll be using Zoom a lot. It's pretty easy. But all you have to do literally is click on the link. There is no password. It's just click on the link and that's it. The login link will be emailed to you in orientation. It's in the Dropbox in your course etiquette document. It's also posted in the Facebook forum. People often email saying, where's the link? Where's the link? How do I get into class? And the answer is, in your orientation material, the link is there. You have to keep it handy and use it every single week. And again, we ask that people really take care of that on your own so that we don't have to end up, emailing people multiple times to give them that link. It's the same link every single week. When you get into Zoom, you'll find also in the Dropbox that there's a course etiquette outline that just outlines what we expect from people in the webinar forums, such as if you're going to be in front of your web camera, please have clothes on and don't be, stuffing your face with food or, anything that's on the camera around you. Be sensitive about it. Keep your microphones on mute unless it's time for Q&A. Be respectful in the chat box. Know that I can see streaming questions, but I don't always see all of them. I try to get to questions, but don't always have time for all of them, especially this being a bigger class. Because of COVID-19, there's more people signed up for this class. So, if I don't answer your question, it's never, because I didn't think it was worthy, or I didn't, it probably just, I didn't see it or I didn't have time for it. And so you're always welcome to email me questions that did not get answered. info@nightlightastrology.com. Please do that. Don't, let your questions go unanswered. That's what you're paying me for. So if there's something that is confusing, be sure you email me about it and I'd be very happy to answer. My assistant's name is Delia, and she will answer most questions unless it's one that she doesn't know or doesn't know the answer to, in which case she'll pass it off to me. But she's a really good astrologer and she's my TA. So you'll be meeting her in the first day of class as well. She's my personal assistant and my TA. So you'll get to know her. And let's see. There'll always be time in class for Q&A. Sometimes I won't take questions in order to keep on a good pace with getting through the material. Other times I'll open it up for questions and we'll go off on tangents. It's pretty flexible. The other thing is that for Zoom to work, you can use it on a tablet, you can use it on a phone, you can use it on a desktop, you can use it on a laptop, but know that the smaller screen you have, the harder it's going to be to see the presentation and the videos and so forth. So really recommended to have like a laptop if possible. A tablet, if it has a big enough screen, will be okay. Also, in order to participate in the forum through questions, answers on the camera, which I really encourage because it feels a little bit more real when we're all there together, is that you outside of class, you can have, if well, you need a microphone and a web camera. That's what I was going to say. But then at the beginning of class, microphones are all muted until Q&A is opened up at some point during the class, but you can be on the cameras. I really do invite that. And there's a chat box that you can use as well. So that's the gist of how Zoom works. It's pretty straightforward. I recommend downloading the free Zoom app to whatever device you plan on using. And if you have any questions or having any troubles technically, Zoom has awesome customer service that you can just literally, you can call them up and ask them to, just help you get into a meeting if you're struggling to get into it. You can also email us if you're having any problems. Sometimes we'll be able to spot check that for you, but remember, we're not technicians computer wise, and sometimes, most of the time, if a person's having problems on getting into the meeting, it's because of something they're doing on their end that we can't necessarily see or fix without being there. In which case, it's almost always going to be easier for you to call up Zoom and ask them to help you join a meeting so they can take you through it if for some reason you're having a problem. It's very rare that people do. Sometimes people do have a technical issue with getting into a Zoom meeting, but I recommend, if you download the app, you can start a Zoom meeting on your computer and just see how it works and get used to it, familiarize yourself with it because it's free. You need a good high-speed internet connection for that as well, for all of these things, right? So, okay. The next thing that we're going to talk about is, and actually I'll just, I'm in a Zoom meeting right now as I'm talking to you, right? So, and I'll be able to share screen like I just did, showing you the Dropbox and so forth. So that's where you can find the info. Again, for the etiquette is in the Dropbox as well. There's a whole document that talks about the Zoom etiquette. So make sure you look over that. Next is the Facebook group. So I'm going to show you the Facebook group right now so you can see it. Facebook group is called Nightlight 20. You are the 20th class of the Nightlight program. So your group is called Nightlight 20. And what you'll find is just a group. And in the group, you'll always see the Zoom weekly meeting login listed. So there it is. So you always have it. And then you're going to see, if you scroll down, the Dropbox link and password. So you always have Dropbox and Zoom, and those are the two main things you need. This forum is also used for weekly discussions. So every week I will have different topics that we'll be visiting in class and that I will recommend, typically something to talk about or think about outside of class in the Facebook group. So my recommendation is you use that you hang out with your peers, that you share charts. It's not something that I micromanage. It's there for the students to interact with each other and to talk. Some students even form little meetup groups outside of class or, get together to study. I will always put some questions in there. I always like to hear people's reflections. It's good to share our thoughts. So I might ask some leading questions or give you guys some little mini assignments, like look at this particular dimension of your birth chart and then share what your thoughts or reflections are with the group. There are also some basic etiquette for the Facebook group. For example, be nice. We don't get into the politically charged stuff. If people are posting conspiracy theories or whatever political stuff, I will remove it. Delia is the administrator of that group, my assistant and TA. So she'll be there also guiding discussion and giving prompts and things like that. It's a great way to learn. I would just ask that people are respectful. Also, the general thing is that it's a learning and focused study space, not a more personal, let's call it therapeutic space, which, this class is transformative. It does personally move us and change us, but, we want to be careful because, the space that we're holding in that group is for focused study. So we can talk about our own lives, but let's just be sure that we're careful to have good boundaries. Then also what I want to go through next is the supplies. So there are a few major books that you need and recommendations for software programs. Get my books. Okay, so there are 3 books in the program that I recommend. 2 of them are essential. The third is a little bit more optional. every week for the first, like 20 lessons of the program, we're going over theoretical material. You're going to have guided or recommended readings from two major source texts. The first one is Chris Brennan's Hellenistic Astrology, the Study of Fate and Fortune. And this book you can find on Amazon. I believe that there is a Kindle version of it, though I can't recall offhand. It's been a while since I've looked at the updates on this one, but this is our primary source text. And the Astrology podcast is also a really great reference that I point you to. Almost every lesson, there'll be some bonus content because Chris has a lot of good, he's like one of the best Hellenistic astrology resources out there. The other book that we'll be looking at is called Ancient Astrology by Dimitra George, in Theory and Practice, a manual of traditional techniques. So these are our textbooks. You will not be reading them cover to cover. You'll be reading them, at a different pace. You're welcome to read them cover to cover. Now, people are always asking me, what should I read to get prepared for the course? Well, read this. Hellenistic Astrology would be the one to start with. Ancient Astrology as well. If you did want to get started reading, you could start reading those. Now that is a task, right? Because they're thick and it can be a little intimidating. So, but if you want to get ahead, certainly at least reading through the history, the introduction and history to both would be a great place to start. Now, the third book that I'll say a little bit more about ways to prepare before the end of this. Now, the third the third book, I should say, is On the Heavenly Spheres by Helena Avalar and Louis Ribeiro. Now, the On the Heavenly Spheres textbook is a textbook in traditional or classical astrology, but it is a little bit more on the medieval side of classical astrology, which is to say it comes a little bit later than Hellenistic astrology. So not all concepts are going to be relevant in the book, but it's a good book and it has a lot of good information that falls roughly in line with what we're studying. But for the texts in class that are going to be most conducive to learning Hellenistic astrology and to following along with what I teach, it's going to be Dimitra George's Ancient Astrology and Chris Brennan's Hellenistic Astrology. So those are your textbooks. Now, are there other textbooks that you could look at? Oh yeah, there's always a million, right? So, let me just open this up a little bit. And in your course documents, you're also going to find, see if I can open this up and I'll just show it to you. Yeah, here we go. A list of recommended readings that fall outside of the or like additional resources, let's call them, that fall outside of the main textbooks that I just mentioned. So here you'll see the two that I have highlighted on the recommended readings list are Hellenistic Astrology by Chris Brennan, Ancient Astrology by Dimitra George. Then I have On the Heavenly Spheres by Avalar and Ribeiro. The rest are in no particular order. And what you'll find here is quite literally just a list of different books that are, have informed this is like a good working bibliography of sources that I draw on in the way that I teach and astrologers that I've been influenced by and so forth. This would all be considered very much additional work that you are not expected to do. Even the textbooks themselves are just there to supplement what we're learning in class. I highly recommend at least trying to follow along with the readings that I recommend for all of the lessons from Hellenistic Astrology and Ancient Astrology, these two textbooks. But again, if you can't afford it, or, right now with COVID-19, it might take a while for some of the texts to get there, don't worry about it. It's not the biggest deal. But if you can get those two books, those are the ones I would order. And if you had only enough room to get one, I would recommend getting Hellenistic Astrology by Chris Brennan. All right, there's also a few recommended astrology software programs if you don't have one already. Now, I use SolarFire Gold in class, which you can get at astrolabe.com. And that's about $360, not cheap. Has everything you need eventually that you would probably want if you get real serious about Hellenistic astrology. But also high end, not necessarily what you can get by with less. Time Passages is for PC and Mac, whereas Solar Fire Gold is only for PC, and they do not yet have a Mac version, which is a little frustrating. They do have a program called Solar Gold, I believe it's called. Let me make sure I've got that right. I'll turn on my phone because I've got it on my phone. So yeah, there is an app that you can get that's like a pared down version of Solar Fire Gold for Mac. So I'll come back to that in a second. But Time Passages by Astrograph. You go to astrograph.com. They have a good program that will give you all the basics. And then, oh yeah, it's called Astro Gold. I have it right there. That's so stupid. Sorry, guys. So Astro Gold, which is for iOS, Android, and Mac operating systems. That's a good program as well. These are the three that I would recommend for getting started, just in terms of casting charts and the basic flexibility that you need to have kind of traditional options available for you. There are also some free software programs online if you need to save up or if you can't get one right away, which is totally fine. Lots of my students can't afford a big fancy program right away. And so, free software programs, I list in order of what I think are the best: astroseek.com and astro.com. Those are two that I'm most familiar with. But there's Chaos Astrology and Chiron for Mac OS. Those are free programs that you can get to at least cast birth charts. They'll give you some options to have things that we have in class, like whole sign houses and other things like that. So I will probably be releasing a basic tutorial on solar fire for users in my class, but I won't have one available for Time Passages or Astro Gold because I don't use those. But if anyone would ever like to make one, I would be very happy to distribute it to students. So if you use those programs and feel like making a little basic tutorial for newcomers, since I use Solar Fire Gold, it'd be helpful to have something like that around. These are reputable programs other than Solar Fire Gold. I started with Time Passages. More serious I got about Hellenistic, Solar Fire made more sense, but yeah, you can use any of these. Okay, so that takes you through some of the resources that you'll need for class that I recommend: those two books and a software program of some kind, or just familiarize yourself with one of those free programs to get started with. So people always ask about preparation. What should I do to prepare? Well, there's one other little caveat here, and that is that if you are brand new to astrology, and I mean brand new, you don't know anything about it, there is a remedial lecture that I give along with some basic material that can help you just sort of get up to speed and familiarize yourself with things. I recommend starting there. That'll be in your Dropbox right away. It's lesson 0, a lesson for total beginners. And if you're, if you are in need of more remedial help, unfortunately, we're in the process of developing like a remedial class for people who are at ground zero of building their understanding, but we're not there yet. So we have just an introductory remedial lecture. The class really is for beginners, but sometimes beginners will just need a little extra attention. So if that's you, I also have a book recommendation. Grab it. Okay, so this book is called Astrology for Yourself, a workbook for personal transformation. This is a great starting point for people who are very new and maybe you want just a little extra attention before class begins next month. Order this book, get started on it right away. If you just take some time with this book, and I mean, there's a lot here, but even just, going through the basics of the planets, the signs, the houses, getting used to what the glyphs are, some of that material will go a long way in helping you grasp the content of the course if you are completely brand new. So that's just a little note for like absolute beginners. Otherwise, if you are wondering how to prepare for class and you already have a little bit of knowledge about astrology, you're not starting completely new, then just start in on Hellenistic astrology. This book, which you can read as much as you want or as much as you can. I would recommend trying to get through all the way through chapter 6, which will take you through the following topics in Hellenistic astrology. You'll get through early astrology in Mesopotamia and Egypt, origins of Hellenistic astrology, practicing astrology in the Roman Empire, the Hellenistic astrologers, the decline and transmission of astrology out of the Roman Empire, philosophical issues in Hellenistic astrology. So that's all sort of like history and philosophical background that should prepare you for the class really nicely. And I think it's probably maybe 100 some pages of reading. So that would be the best place to start in terms of just preparing for class. Now, if you want to get started with Demetra's book, Ancient Astrology by Demetra George, basically similar outline, I recommend going through all the way up to basically page 37, introduction and overview. There's a whole section called Introduction and Overview. And if you go, that's basically all the way through about page 37. So you get through that and you'll have a good introductory read of her book, setting you up nicely for the class. So people always ask, how much time outside of class should I take every week? And I recommend, a couple of hours outside of class. If you think about twice the amount of time that you spent in class outside of class, so that'd be maybe 4 or 5 hours every week studying. I think that's a really good amount of time, even just like an hour a day of reading or looking at charts, or even 30 minutes a day reading and looking at charts. Just kind of keeping your head in the game. The more the better. If you really love it, great. But some people are taking this for different reasons and at different levels, and so you have to go at the pace that feels right to you. You can get a lot out of an astrology course by following along and not necessarily doing anything else, just following along and learning with the actual course videos and course notes. That'll be plenty. For some other people, you're going to want to do a lot of homework, look at charts. Maybe you're thinking of becoming a professional astrologer. So just know who you are and be comfortable in your own style and pace of learning, and reach out with questions. info@nightlightastrology.com. Anytime throughout the year that you have questions, reach out. If Delia can't answer, my TA, then I will, and we will make sure that you're good. The number one reason that people end up really not doing well in a class like this is that they don't ask questions, they don't reach out and ask for help, they don't participate in the forums, they don't keep up in a sort of regular way with the classes or videos. So try to do that as much as you can. You should be fine. So our schedule, I'm going to break down our schedule a little bit for you next. And this will, a lot of this is saving us time in class, when we don't want to be like going through so much business if we can help it. So I'm going to put this up on the screen where you can all see it. So this is the general overview of you'll find this in your course overview document in the Dropbox, so you can look at this yourself. But the gist of it, if I can pare it down a little bit, is the outline of what we're studying. So we start off looking at a history of Western astrology. I'm not a historian, so don't worry. This is just a brief overview. Then we look at the astronomical and metaphysical or mystical philosophical foundations of ancient astrology. Then we go into a 3-part series on the ancient meanings and uses of the planets. Then we go into the 12 signs, the 12 places, aspects, dignities, accidental dignities, universal and topical significations, and then delineation techniques. So that's a lot of theoretical material and say the first 20 lessons or so. Then you'll notice at the end that we go through a whole bunch of live clients and practice together. And those are really interactive sessions where, I always tell people it's laid out specifically because the first portion of class is meant to just completely blow your mind and to be very intensely transformative on the mental level. Then we start bringing it in and working with people, and you're off to the races integrating the material. But the first 20 lectures, excuse me, are very, they're lecture material, lots of chart examples. So there are charts being brought in all the time, and people and live stories and things like that. But it is the first part of class is like, it's a really kind of an explosion of material and a way of completely reorienting your view of reality and the stars and things like that. Especially if you've come from modern astrology already, things may be a little bit different than you're used to. Trust me, you just stick with the process, and in time you'll find that you're able to integrate and synthesize many different things. But it is in some ways like unlearning what you've learned. So some habits and practices will change if you are used to modern astrology and studying ancient astrology for the first time. Some of these topics may also seem very basic to you. You may go like, I know about planets, houses, signs, aspects. If you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology, then you don't know about signs, planets, houses, or aspects in the way that you're going to learn them. So trust that this is not material that you already know. So that being said, I am really looking forward to class. And let's see if I can, last but not least, one more thing on our notes is Course fees. Every 15th of the month, your course fees are taken out unless there's two subscription options. People who are paying normal tuition, whatever date you signed up on, that is the date monthly that your renewed auto pay will occur. If you signed up with any form of need-based tuition, then it occurs on the 15th of every month. If for any reason your payment fails, you will get multiple emails from people. Sorry about that. That's just the way that all of these different processors work. They all sort of email you. And we do too. And then we'll give you a link to upload new credit card information if you've got an expired card or your card was stolen or you've got a replacement or you just need to use a different card for some reason. We ask people please to have your card ready to go on the 15th of every month. Because that saves us a lot of extra, just a lot of extra hustle. So thank you for that. And obviously the refund policy is that you have within the first 3 weeks of class to change your mind, at which point we're happy to refund you minus 1/12 of the cost, one of the monthly payments of the course. And that's all outlined in your course contract, which you all signed prior to receiving this. So then after the first 3 classes are done, then you're locked in to your contract, just so that that's clear for everybody. If you are not able to finish the course for some reason, life gets really crazy and overwhelming and busy, you are welcome to, again, download the material for the year, for the course, and follow along at your own pace. And if you let us know what your situation is, usually we're pretty good about letting people take a test at a later point when they can catch up with the material. So certification testing comes at the very end of the class, and it's an optional exercise. People who want to be certified can be by taking the test. Those who don't care so much about that, no big deal. At the end of the day, it's a piece of paper. I do think that it is a psychic completion point that's important, especially if you're considering practicing with others. The test includes an exam. It's explained in the course documents in your Dropbox. Includes an exam with questions about a birth chart that you interpret. And we're not expecting that you get everything absolutely correct. We're expecting that you get into the ballpark. If you pass that test, it's pass or fail. We don't provide a lot of commentary. We just look and say, good, 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 thumbs up. Here's your certificate. And more than happy to let people retake the test if they're close but need a little work on something. So we're pretty flexible. Throughout the year, like I said, you can email me at any time, info@nightlightastrology.com. If anything in this talk, in this orientation wasn't clear, let me know. And if you ever have questions, my assistant Delia will also be a part of the process of helping you out. She can be reached through info@nightlightastrology.com. So I look forward to seeing you all in class. Our first class is coming up in June. We're meeting on June 14th to start at noon Eastern, always noon Eastern every week. Be sure you note time changes or time zones in throughout the world, wherever you're located. I hope to see you there live in class. And you have all of the info that you need now. But like I said, if anything was left out, feel free to email us. And I will see you soon in class. Take it easy, everyone.